Hello students, today we are starting the third unit of problem solving using C. In this unit, you will be learning about structured data types, arrays, one-dimensional array, two-dimensional array, character and string functions, structures and union. In this session, we will be learning only about an introduction to an array. So, we'll learn what an array is. The first thing is that array is a structured data type. You know what a data type is? The fundamental data types are int, float, and character. Array is a structured data type. What do you mean by the word structured? Okay. This means that an ordered collection of data. Look here, this is a set of names. The columns in an Excel sheet are examples of structured data type. So what is unstructured data? See, what the information in your WhatsApp group. They are not structured. They can have numbers, they can have characters, text, audio, video, not of same type. So they are known as unstructured data. But in C, we are keeping array as a structured data type. It is a finite collection of elements of the same data type. It's a collective name given to a group of similar quantities. For example, we can say that its example of an array is a percentage of marks of 100 students, salaries of 3,000 employees, ages of 50 employees, temperature recorded in every hour in a day, list of products, their cost, list of customers, telephone numbers, table of daily rainfall data are all examples of arrays. The thing we need to notice is that it's of same data type and it should be finite. So we are saying that array contains similar elements. These similar elements could be integers, floating point numbers, or characters. Usually, the array of characters termed as a string. When we say an array, we simply mean that it's an array of integers. We are storing array of characters in some other different way. There's slight difference that we'll learn in the next session. All elements in the array must be of same type. That means you can have an array of 10 numbers upon which 5 are integers and 5 are floating point numbers. Either all should be integers or all should be floating point numbers. And each member in this group is referred to by its position in the group, which is known as an index or a subscript. This array is also known as a data structure because this is a convenient structure for keeping or representing data. So this is a data structure in C. Other data structures in C are structures, lists, queues, and trees. Now let's see different types of arrays. Arrays are classified into different types based on its dimension. We can have one-dimension array, two-dimension array, three-dimension array, four-dimension, five-dimension, etc. In general, we say that when the array has more than one dimension, it is a multi-dimensional array. Okay. Now we'll learn what is a dimension. Dimension means it's a subscript. How many subscripts or index is needed to refer all elements in an array? If there's only one subscript or index is required to reference all elements in an array, then the array will be termed as one-dimensional array or simply an array. When we say an array, it means that it is a one-dimensional array. Okay. In C, a single subscript value xi is represented as x0, x1, x2, etc. Mathematically, we write x2, x3, x5, etc. But when we are writing in C, we have to use x square bracket 2 or x square bracket 3. In C, the index or subscript starts with 0. That means x of 0 is a valid thing in C. But mathematically, we do not use x0. We start with x1, x2, etc. Okay, this one-dimensional array is just like a list. This is how we declare a one-dimensional array. Int age 4. This is one of the declaration. First, we have a data type. Int is a data type in C. First, we have to specify the data type of this array. Then we have to specify the name of this array. Then we have to specify the size of the array. How many elements are supposed to be stored in this array. Okay, and the size is enclosed by delimited by a square bracket. Here we have a square bracket. And see, there is a semicolon here. Why do we need a semicolon? All the statements in C ends with semicolon. That's why there's a semicolon here. This is how we declare a one-dimensional array. Okay. So data type, variable name, size. This data type can be integers, floating point numbers, or characters. We can write in there, float there, or character there. The size indicates the maximum number of elements that can be stored inside an array. This is the maximum number of elements. If the size is 10, at most we will be able to store 10 elements. But this number of elements stored can be less than 10. There's no issue. But at most we can store safely 10 elements. This one. This is an integer array of size 8. That means that we can store 8 integers. Number 5. 5 numbers can be stored. 5 integers can be stored. Here, float mark 30. That means 30 marks can be stored, which is of type floating point number. 30 real numbers are stored here, and which name is mark. Similarly, character is 30. That means that we can store 30 characters. Okay. When we declare an integer, what does it mean? It means 2 bytes. 2 bytes will be allocated for storing each element. In the case of floating point number, we require 4 bytes. In the case of character, we require 1 byte. And each array has a subscript. This is a one-dimensional array. So only one subscript is needed to refer all elements in the array. The subscript in an array must be integers, integer constants, or a variable I that whose value can take only integers. So we can write xi. So I can take values 0, 1, 2, etc. Number j can also take value 0. That is, this number should be integers. Mark m. Mark is floating point number, but m can take only zeros. 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Mark 0, mark 1, etc. This is S0. This can be a constant, it can be a variable. This variable can take only integer values. Okay. Now, this is the allocation of one-dimensional array. When we write int x8, what happens internally? We need space to store 8 integers. Int x8, the size is 8. That means we have to store at most 8 integers. So this is how it is allocated. x0, x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6, x7. Each can contain this much space. That is 2 bytes are allocated for each array element. So in x0 we can store an integer, x1 we can store another integer, x2 we can store another integer, and so on. To store an integer, how many bytes are required? We require at least 2 bytes. 2 bytes, so 16 bits are allocated per integer. Altogether, how many bytes will be allocated? 8 into 2. 16 bytes are allocated when a statement like this is encountered. Okay. Now see how can we assign elements. So we have declared. So internally such memory location will be allocated. And we can assign values into it. X of 0 is equal to 16. What happened? When we write x of 0 is equal to 16, this is what is happening. In x of 0, we write 16 there. When x of 1 equal to 23, here 23 will be stored. X of 2 equal to 34, 34 is stored. 55 is stored here. X of 4 is equal to 12. In x of 4, 12 is stored. These values are not assigned. That doesn't mean this value is empty. There will be some garbage values there. The values which is already previously stored. There may be some values, but we do not know what the values are. Okay. This is how it happens internally. So in order to refer these two, we need memory address also. Memory address also. So whenever you write this, we have a memory address. Suppose the memory address is 8002 for x0. Because it requires 2 bytes, this will be 8002 plus 2. This will be 8004, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. Because x0 requires 2 bytes. Right? Everyone requires 2 bytes. So, we can get the next address by adding 2 to it. Okay. If it's a character array, only 1 byte was required. This is how it is allocated. This is a memory map of a one-dimensional array. The memory is allocated continuous chain. Either we can write like this or either we can write in a horizontal way as a row or as a column. It's up to you. We can write in any of these ways. Okay. Now see, which of the following are valid statements? A equal number 0 plus 10. Is it valid? Because number is an integer array that contains a value. We can add it with 10. There's no issue. This is a valid statement. Number 4 equal to number 0 plus number 2. Again, these two have values. It can be added and stored in number 4. xy plus y10 is again valid. Value 6 equal to number of I into 3. This I is a subscript that takes integer value. We can say it's valid only if we can say that if I equal to 3, I equal to 2, then it is valid. Okay. Now see the initialization of one-dimensional array. How can we initialize a one-dimensional array? We have to give initial values into this array. Okay. An array can be initialized in two different ways. One is at compile time and another is at runtime. We can initialize the values at compile time as well as runtime. Okay, first we will see the compile time initialization. Here, we need a data type here. We know that how an array is declared. We need a data type, name, size, followed by square bracket. Okay, this is the array size, and we need an assignment operator. We are going to initialize the values. So we need an assignment operator. Then these braces are required, and we have to write values inside it. Each value separated by comma. This is the initializing values. Okay, each value is separated by commas. Then we need a semicolon. This is known as compile time initialization. When we write in the program itself, we are giving the initial values, which is known as the compile time initialization. Is it clear? In this case, this array size is optional because the compiler can find out how many elements are there using or counting these elements. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will automatically declare this as 6. But the subscript starts with 0, right? Coin 0, coin 0, coin 1, coin 2, coin 3, 4, 5. Right? The subscript starts with 0. So elements, we are referring the elements from 0 to 5 that constitute 6 elements. Okay. So actually we do not need to use the array size when we initialize all array elements because the compiler can figure out by counting the initial values. We can declare like this: in days of month equal to 31, like this. The month number of days in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November and December. Put it inside curly bracket. At the end, put a semicolon. Okay. If the array size is specified, we are giving the array size. And the number of elements initialized are less than the array size. What will happen? The missing elements will be initialized to 0. Okay. In the number of elements initialized is greater than the array, then an array error will be signaled. This is an example. We have declared int a3 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. What happens when we declare int a3? You get an array a, array name a. This is a0. This is for a1. This is for a2. Okay. Array of size 3. 1, 2, 3. Index starts with 0. So only up to a2 we can store. Now we are going to store the values. Here we are storing 1. Here we are storing 2. Here we are storing 3. There is no space to store 4. So we will get a warning: excess array elements. Okay. But in the same way, suppose we are declaring int a3 is equal to 1, 2. We are giving only 2 values. So what happened? Here, this is for a0. This is for a1. This is for a2. We are storing 1, 2 here. 1 is stored here, 2 is stored here. So we have declared 3 elements, declared space for 3 elements, but initialized only 2 values. So the compiler will put a 0 here. Initialize that value with 0. The missing elements will be initialized to 0. But if the array size is greater, but if the number of elements are greater than the array size, there will be an error because we don't have the space. We do not have the space to store this array. Okay, is it clear? This is examples of compile time initialization. Int number 3 0 0 0. Int float total 5 0 0 1 1 15.75 -10. Int counter 1 1 1 1. Character name IJOHN/0. This is how we store a character. Okay, we'll discuss it in the next class. Character name, double quotes John. This is also possible. Next thing is that we have learned about the compile time initialization. The next thing is runtime initialization. The array is declared or the array is initialized at the runtime. Okay, array can be initialized at the runtime. This approach is usually applied for initializing large arrays. Okay. Oh, what is meant by this runtime? The runtime is meant The runtime is known as we are executing a program. When we are executing a program, we can initialize the array elements, which is known as runtime initialization. For example, see float sum equal to 100. That means a 100 floating point array named sum is allocated. Okay. And using a for loop, we are going to initialize values into it. For I equal to 0, I less than 100, I plus plus, or I equal to I plus 1. If I is less than 50, sum of I equal to 0.0 and sum of I equal to 1.0. What will happen there? So when the compiler sees this command, an array named sum will be created. I'm sorry. This is for number 0. I'll put a dot here. This is for sum 0, sum 1, etc. So if I equal to 0, what happens? If I is less than 0, the sum will be initialized to 0.0. 0.0 up to 49. Okay, if I is less than 50, up to 49. So this is the index 0, index 1, index 2, 3 up to 49. The value will be 0. From 50 onwards, the value will be 1. This is not relevant to this program, but this is just demonstrate how array can be initialized at the runtime. Okay. Now we can initialize it using scanf statement. Using scanf, we can initialize values. We declare int x equal to 3 and we are reading using scanf. Scanf and x0 and x1 and x2. The same way we are using scanf. We are using scanf using %d and a variable and x. When we are declaring an ordinary thing, when we are declaring an integer, we are reading it like this. But when we are reading an array, we have to use and x of 0 and x of 1 and x of 2, etc. This can be read using a for loop. Index equal to index x3, for I equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus, scanf %d and x of I. This I can take values 0. That this should seem the same, right? Here I can take values 0 to 3. So we are reading x of 0, x of 1 and x of 2. It takes values from 0 to 2, 0 to 3, less than 3. So 0, 1 and 2. Okay. See, now we are reading the array without specifying. See, here the number of elements are 3. We are read 3 elements. Here also we are declared 3. We are read 3 elements. Now we are declaring 10. We are declaring 10 elements. But we are reading based on the user's choice. Here enter an array size less than 10. Okay, scanf that n. Depending upon the value of n, we are storing elements. I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, scanf %d and x of I. So in the array x, we are storing elements depending upon the value of n. If n equal to 2, 2 values will be read. N equal to 3, that means 3 values will be read and so on. Okay, so we can change our program in the way we want. Now we'll see a sample programs too. This is a program to demonstrate an array. You are just reading a set of elements and just printing it. Okay, the complete program. Initially we write the program. We can make it this as a command so that you know what the program is. And then we have included the library statement stdio.h void main int a10 ni printf enter the size of the array less than 10 scanf using scanf we have read it enter the elements in the array for I equal to 0 I less than and I plus plus scanf percentage d and a of I. So whatever be the value of n, that many values will be read into the array, and we are just printing out the value elements of the array for I equal to 0 I less than and I plus plus print up percentage d slash t ai. Why this slash t is, we need some space between array elements. Okay, that's why we have added a slash t here. We can add a space or null line there, no issue, but here I have added only slash t. Okay, you see the output of this program. Enter the array of size less than 10. Here I have given 4. That means 4 elements will be read. Enter the elements of the array. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 elements will be read and stored in the array. And the elements will be printed as 56. The same elements will be printed back. Okay. See, we'll see what happens in the program. Here, when we, this is the output. Enter the array size less than 10. This is the first statement. We are giving 4 there. So what will happen internally? What will happen when we declare int a10, an array named a which can store 10 elements will be allocated. A which can store 10 elements. This is 0. Just write a here. This is a0, a1, a2, a3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 0 model 0 to 9. The element starts with 0, ends at 9. Okay. Now we are reading the value of n. The value of n is read as the value of n is read as 4. Then using the for loop we are reading the elements. So the first element will be 56. It will be stored in A0. Next is 45 stored in A1. 23 stored in A2 and 12 is stored in A3. Here there will be some garbage values. We are not bothering about that values. Now we are going to print the elements from 0 to 4. 0 to n equal to 4. 0 to 4. So we are printing first A0, that is 56. 56. Then put a tab. Then print a 45. Again put a tab. Put 23. Put a tab. Then put 12. Okay, put a tab and then end, because we have ended this terminator. What will happen if you are printing I less than or equal to n? We will one more value here. That is this value also will be printed here. But we do not know the values is. That may be some garbage value, some numbers. Okay, this is how the program works. So we have just learned what an array is, how we can read elements into an array as well as print elements into an array. Thank you.